So I've got a press release an updated press release that I'll email out to you, and I've got a couple copies of it here. But I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to turn the time over to Captain Sam Hulse with Bonneville County Sheriff's Office. He's going to read through a press release, and we'll have time for a few questions after that, I'm sure as well, if you have any. So, Captain Sam Hulse.
Thanks, Brian. Okay, welcome everybody. I'll just read through this press release really quick, and then we'll go with any questions that you might have after that. So on September 2nd, 2019, at approximately 6:54 p.m., Bonneville County Sheriff's deputies and the Idaho Falls Fire Department responded to a residence in the 4000 block of North 5th West in Bonneville County to the report of a shooting. As emergency personnel arrived, they found a 30-year-old male identified as Rory Neddo, deceased in the driveway of an apparent gunshot wound. During this time, witnesses provided information that a 29-year-old Marshall D. Hendricks shot Neddo and then left the area in a vehicle. That information was put out to surrounding law enforcement, resulting in Hendricks being located in Jefferson County by Jefferson County Sheriff's Office deputies a short while after he left the scene. Through investigation, deputies found that Neddo and Hendricks were acquainted, had been arguing in the driveway of the residence on 5th West. The argument resulted in Hendricks shooting Neddo before leaving the scene in a vehicle. Bonneville County Sheriff's deputies met with Hendricks in Jefferson County, where he was being detained, and placed him into custody. Hendricks was then transported to Bonneville County Jail, where he is booked on a charge of second-degree murder. Deputies, with the assistance of Bonneville County Coroner's Office, are still working through processing evidence from the scene and sorting through information provided by witnesses to determine the exact nature of the argument and how it led to the death of Neddo. An autopsy is also scheduled for later this week, and I believe that's going to be on Thursday. The Bonneville County Sheriff's Office would like to thank the Idaho Falls Police Department for their assistance while we were working with this case, and also Idaho Falls Fire and their paramedic unit that responded to the scene there, and Jefferson County for their assistance. With that, we take any questions that you might have.
Do we know what sort of relationship the two have? Are they neighbors or?
They are acquaintances. They have mutual friends and mutual interactions. That's as much as we know at this point, and we're digging into how well they knew each other, but they were acquainted.
We don't know what they were fighting over that led to this.
Well, we understand that it was related to an argument over relationships, but we're still identifying the specifics of that and getting all the information from witnesses and making sure that we're accurate with that. So that's as much as we know at this point.
Was anyone else home at the time?
Yes, there were witnesses there at the time when the incident occurred.
Do we have an exact address of where this took place?
I know usually we just report on the block, and it's in the 4000 block, but we can get you an exact address if you're interested in that. As a sheriff's office, we tend to steer away from exact addresses for several reasons.
And do we have an idea of when this future court date will be?
I believe there's usually the preliminary hearing would be set up a couple weeks in advance, but that's going to depend on the court docket, and a lot of times it's not uncommon for those to be continued depending on what's occurring, so that'll just be specific to the courts, but usually within a couple weeks you'll see that hearing, the preliminary hearing.
Do we know who the homeowner was?
I believe we have that information. The homeowner was out of the area, the actual owner of the home, when this incident occurred. But I don't have that information with me, but yes, we do know who the homeowner is.
Is it true that the suspect was on parole in Jefferson County?
I believe that the suspect does have a criminal history. To the exact nature of that and whether or not they were on parole, I don't have that information in front of me, but we do know that there was a criminal history there.
Will a picture be released or a mug?
Yes, I believe that's attached to this updated press release that Sergeant Lovell will be sending out, so you'll have that mugshot.
Where exactly did they find the suspect in Jefferson County?
I believe he had gone to a residence in Jefferson County that was not his home, and the deputies had detained him there. I don't know what that, so we could probably get that information for you.
body was located, was it outside of the house or inside?
The body was outside.
Was it moved, do you think, or was it right there?
So I don't believe we have any indication at this point through our investigation that the body was moved. Obviously, those things can change as the investigation continues, but everything that we have currently indicates that he was where he fell.
Okay.
Do we know, was it a neighbor who called in?
So witnesses at the scene called in that actually were there when the shooting occurred, that also know both men, called in after the shooting happened.
How much time went by between the shooting and when they apprehended the suspect?
Do we have a timeline on that? Within an hour or so?
Within an hour.
Yeah, within an hour, I believe we had the suspect in custody.
Was there multiple shots fired in this incident?
There was a single round fired.
What type of weapon was it?
It was a handgun, .40 caliber.
And so in between, it was an hour in between the shooting and finding him. Did we have an idea of already where he might be? How did we find him that quickly?
So obviously there's still several things that need to be investigated, but I believe they had an understanding of where the suspect was headed. There were also the acquaintances there that were giving information, the other witnesses at the scene that were giving information, and so with that they were able to discern fairly rapidly where he was going. He lives in Jefferson County. All of those things kind of fell together at that point.
But he's by himself when he was apprehended?
I believe, yes, he was by himself and he left the scene by himself.
Did the victim have any family members that were there with him, or did they also another person who shot him?
So I believe there was a brother of the victim that was at the scene when the incident happened. Okay, any other questions? Obviously, we'll follow up with any information as it becomes available. Your contact sergeant level can always help with any particular questions if there's something that we need to help you identify. These investigations take time. We prefer to get things right rather than to get things fast, right? So we need to make sure that we're doing our due diligence as this goes forward. There's a lot of work involved here. Even though things appear pretty obvious, there's a lot that has to be done. So we just appreciate you taking the time to come to the press conference and appreciate the opportunity.
I do have one more question. When you did apprehend the suspect, did he seem show any sense of remorse or resistance?
I don't have any of that information at this point, but I believe he was taken into custody without incident. So.
Okay.
Can you spell the names for us real quick?
Sure, absolutely. So, suspect is Marshall D. Hendricks, Marshall Deehendricks, 29, and he's from Jefferson County. And then the victim is Rory, R-O-R-Y, D, and all I have is the initials, so there's D period, so I'm not sure if we have a middle name. And Neddo, and it's Neddo, 30 of Idaho Falls.
Did you see Neddo was N-E-D-D?
Yes, Neddo.
N or N?
N is in Nora.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, N is in Nora.